Racing preview show, this time looking ahead to Sunday's Longines Hong Kong International Races. It's the biggest race day at Sha Tin every year, and this year back in front of a crowd after 3 years. We are now on YouTube, so make sure that you are liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, and make sure that you are sharing this video. It's great to be able to chat about Hong Kong racing again and what is going to be a great international race day. I welcome in Jim McGrath and Wally Pyrah. Jim, you've seen Hong Kong racing develop over the last few decades. Just explain how important Hong Kong International Races Race Day has become in the calendar.
Well, it's all part of the evolution of Hong Kong racing, which of course started professionally in 1971. Before that, it had been going for decades. In fact, almost 90 years before that, with amateur riders. But one thing about Hong Kong racing is that it has always been the only legal form of gambling. So that's why horse racing has always been, hugely popular with the punters in Hong Kong. And these international races have actually put Hong Kong on the map internationally, and it really has grown and grown and grown in the last 20 or so years, and it's now one of the key international meetings in the entire year. And looking at the prize money, I mean, it is right up there in the very top bracket.
Absolutely, it is. It's really quite staggering prize money on offer on Sunday. Wally Pyrah, you've been to many an HKIR day. What can people expect who are tuning in for Sunday's race day?
Well, the best thing is what Jim has just said, that the Hong Kong Jockey Club market this day in unbelievable fashion. Anybody that watched the International Jockeys Challenge on Wednesday at the Happy Valley, I mean, please, it was just so wonderful with all the fireworks, the jockeys, the jamboree. And this is what Hong Kong does so well. And I really wish sometimes that other jurisdictions would just have a look and see exactly at how it is. Now, talking about this meeting on Sunday, as Jim has just said, I mean, the prize money is astounding. It's over, 11 million pounds in prize money over the 4 races. It's the flagship event. No wonder you've got horses from all around the world running, from Singapore, Japan, France, Ireland, etc., etc. So what people can look forward to is a really outstanding day's racing, which is highlighted by these 4 races.
Certainly is a 10-race card coming up at Sha Tin, but it is all about these 4 Group 1, as you say, flagship races, Wally. It's going to be a great day. It's been perfect weather here in Hong Kong this week, so we can expect it to be very much a good surface, very much firm ground, and every horse hopefully getting its chance. We'll start with the Longines Hong Kong Vase. This comes up over the 2,400 metres, jumps at 2:10 local time, which will be 6:10 a.m. British time, an early start on Saturday morning. There is European interest here with the likes of Broome, Bubble Gift, Mendocino, Botanic, Stone Age down the bottom, Win Marilyn coming across from Japan, as well as Glory Vase looking to make it 3 Hong Kong Vases. He'll become the second horse to have won any of these races 3 times, joining Good Barber, who won the Hong Kong Mile 3 times. And there are 3 locals as well. I'm going to start with you, Jim. How did you see the Hong Kong Vase shaping up?
Well, first of all, I think, Andrew, you've got to realise that the European horses, the visitors, they always have the advantage here because they are better stayers. Locally in Hong Kong, it's a weak division. In fact, in looking at the Hong Kong lineup here, it is it is pretty weak. Senor Toba is the horse who's in form, and it's unfortunate for his connections because this has been his target for a long time. It's unfortunate that he's drawn badly. He's drawn 10 of 10. You might think over 1.5 miles this doesn't matter. It does matter in Hong Kong. It's very, the draw is everything, and it's going to, I think, probably take away any possible chance he had of winning the race. I do see it as a Europeans race again. Stone Age, who was favourite for the Derby at Epsom at one point in his career. He's had actually 6 runs since he won the Derby trial at Leopardstown. That was back in early May. He's been campaigned pretty strenuously by Ballydoyle. However, his last run was very good, and that was in the Breeders' Cup Turf. He was second to Rebels Romance there. I think that form is good enough, particularly as he's a 3-year-old and he gets a pretty handy allowance here of £5 on the older horses. I thought the Botanic had run a big race for Andre Fabre. He's actually won 7 races, this horse, which I find incredible. He's a 4-year-old gelding. He's by Golden Horn. He's very much got just some real upside, this horse. And William Buick will take over from Mikel Barcelona, who's tested positive, unfortunately, to COVID. And I thought Glory Vase, he's a chance. We haven't seen much of him, though. Wally Pyrah might have some view on why we haven't seen him, but he's been very sparingly raced. Of course, as you say, Andrew, if he does win this, he will go into the record books as a history maker. But I just think he might be overshadowed by the Europeans.
And Wally, Glory Vase, as Jim mentions there, we haven't seen much of him. He's only raced twice this year, twice since winning that Hong Kong Vase. Any ideas as to why that is?
No, listen, that's how a lot of Japanese horses, gallopers, train their horses. They seem to have huge breaks. They come back. But the big thing about this is Glory Vase's last race. He's going to retire after this race. You know that he's been trained specifically for this race. He was 6th in the Sapporo Kinnan over an inadequate trip. He ran okay in that race. It's good to see the magic man Moreira's back in the saddle. I mean, Hong Kong punters haven't seen him since the end of September. Moreira's ridden 7 Hong Kong international race winners, so he's going to be very, very popular. Other horses I'd like to just quickly mention is the Japanese 5-year-old mare Win Marilyn. It was a 3-time Group 2 winner. Ran a huge race in the Queen Elizabeth Cup at Hanshin on soft ground. Didn't suit it one little bit, and it was beaten by a very good horse. I think that's got a big chance. And as Jim has alluded to, Senor Toba, yeah, Jim, you may well be 100% right, but if you listen to the trainer Casper Founds, and I know how he is, Casper, he's a very ebullient character, and this horse will win and that horse will win, and he normally does quite well. He is very, very confident that on Sunday, the day's the day. So if anybody wants to fancy it, I suggest that you have a look at the odds, because I reckon it probably will plummet in the latter stages before the off.
So Jim's with Stone Age. Wally, which way are you gone here in the Hong Kong Vase?
I was chirping so much about the other horses that I actually forgot. I've got to agree with Jim here on Stone Age. His last race was good when he was second in the Breeders' Cup Turf over a mile and a half. My little slight worry about this horse is I'm not quite sure that he gets the mile and a half, off a pretty quick pace. But Ryan Moore's in the saddle. Moore will probably pick this horse up with a pace from the off. He may well dict the tempo, and there's no better jockey in the world than Ryan Moore dictating the tempo. And I can say that the track work and the news coming from the track this week is that there is plenty of confidence behind Stone Age. So,
Stone Age for both Jim and for Wally, and for me personally, I'm with Botanic for William Buick, Andre Fabre, but definitely understand the respect for Stone Age for the Longines Hong Kong Vase, 2,400 metres, race number 4. The second of the features coming up from Sha Tin, it is race number 5 on the card, the Longines Hong Kong Sprint. It's over the 6 furlongs, the 1,200 metres, and it comes up at 2:50 p.m. local time, which is 6:50 a.m. British time. This, I personally found one of the trickiest race on the card. It is an all-Asian affair, runners from Hong Kong, Japan and Singapore, but plenty of differing form lines, plenty of horses that don't always run to their best, some that have some very strong peak ratings. Wally, I'll start with you. What did you make of this Hong Kong Sprint?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you, Andrew. I think it's a match race between Wellington and Lucky Sweyness. My reasonings is that when Wellington ran last time out, I thought it was bomb-proof. It couldn't get beat. Now the fact that it was lame and it was a pretty poor performance, but understandably because it was lame behind Lucky Sweyness. Now Richard Gibson, this is his absolute horse. He desperately needs this horse to win to get himself back in the limelight. Now, many years ago, when Gibson came to Hong Kong, he was the belle of the ball. Jim will tell you that as well. But things have gone downhill since then. I mean, if you look at the things, he's had 80 runners in Hong Kong this season. He's only had 2 winners, which is a pretty poor statistic. And the other thing is, the gods of fortune have turned their back on this horse by allocating him a wide draw of 10. Now, looking that up, draw 10 has never won, and not even finished in the first 3 in the history of this race.
Wow.
So very, very hard. But, and there is a big but here, it has got Brian Moore on it. And if there's any jockey in the world that will be able to slot in midfield, if he can, then the chances are there. But it's a difficult one. There's worries. The other way there, you look at Lucky Sweyness. Lucky Sweyness is a bit of an unpredictable, bit wayward, but a hugely highly talented galloper. He's got draw 3, ideal position. He had an outside barrier last time, and how he will never know. He's won 7 of his 10 races. He's very progressive, and I think he will win the race. Now, looking at the opposition, and Jim may tell me and say that I'm talking rubbish here. I think that the Japanese sprinters are pretty much the same, beating one another, and maybe Gendarme drops back in distance, 1 of 3 from 9 starts over 6 furlongs. Maybe he's got a bit of chance, and maybe Resting. How do you pronounce it, Jim? Resistencia. Is it?
Resistencia, I think.
That's it. Thank you, Jim. Listen, I apologise. My nose, I can't get the words out with my cold. That was runner-up in this race last year in a race where there was a bit of a tragedy took place, but he was second. So they've got chances. The Hong Kong sprinters over the last few seasons have been very, very average. So you've got the king at the top, Wellington, running against the heir apparent Lucky Sweyness. The draw says to me Pyrah will be in a one-back, one-off position from the start. He'll be very difficult to beat.
I tend to agree with you about the Hong Kong sprinters being pretty average. The Japanese are very similar. It is one of those races where you could potentially make a case for a number of horses, but obviously, Wally, you've marked it down as a match race between Wellington and Lucky Sweyness. Is that the way you've seen it, Jim?
Yeah, exactly, Andrew. Interesting point that Wally makes about Ryan Moore. You're talking about 10, Wally, being a disadvantage. I think, if memory serves, and Andrew can confirm this, I think that Ryan rode a horse called Danon Smash to win the sprint from barrier 14.
Yeah.
Was the most remarkable ride. He somehow got the horse over, and I think he was actually on the fence after they'd gone probably about 400 metres, which was absolutely unbelievable. How he did it, nobody will ever know. So if, as you say, well, if there is a man to do it, he's the man for the job. Wellington, I was slightly disappointed last time, but Richard Gibson is very positive this week. And as you say, this is his horse. This is his flagship. He needs this horse to win. And he's a good trainer, Richard. Despite the dwindling numbers and the figures, he is a good trainer and he knows a good horse. So I think that the horse will run very, very well. However, I do think that Lucky Sweyness with a much better draw this time than last time. He won from 11 last time. He had to use plenty of petrol early. And, he's going to get a much cushier run, I think, on the inside this time. So I go 4 Lucky Sweyness to beat 1 Wellington. I hope the pace is on all the way. If it is, I think that Richard Gibson's other horse, number 10, Cordyceps 6, could fly home and could pick up a place from gate number 13. Another one who's a bit of a smoky is number 12, Sight Success. Christophe Lemaire coming in for the ride for John Size. But I do think it's going to be Lucky Sweynesse for the sprint.
Lucky Sweynesse for both Wally and Jim. Personally, for me, I'm going for a Japanese victory, Gendarme for Damien Lane, but it is one of those races where anything could win. The third of the features is the Hong Kong Mile, the Longines Hong Kong Mile, coming up over the 1,600 metres, 4 o'clock local time, a very palatable 8 a.m. British time, and this worth 30 million Hong Kong dollars, or about 3 million quid. So plenty on the line here. And we talked about Glory Vase potentially making history in the Hong Kong Vase. Well, it's Golden 60 who could potentially join Good Barber as a 3-time winner of this race. And incredibly, it'll be the first time that he's ever been able to do it in front of crowds. He's been Hong Kong's banner horse for so long, and yet crowds really haven't got the chance to embrace him. But with a big crowd expected at Sha Tin on Sunday, it's going to be a case of plenty getting out there to hopefully see history in the making. Jim, Golden 60, he's going to be short. He was entitled to be beaten first up, I thought, but it was that tremendous will to win that came to the fore there.
Yeah, and also his turn of foot. He's got a terrific acceleration, this horse. He's a champion. There's no doubt about it. 22 out of 25 starts. That speaks for itself. I thought that the draw is perfect for him. He's drawn 4. I really do worry when this horse is drawn very low, because he can get bottled up, and Vincent can he's easy prey for other jockeys to actually just gang up on him a little bit, all within the rules, of course. However, good race riding, but they can make it difficult for this horse if he's bottled up on the inside. However, I see from 4 he's going to have options. And I do think that's a good thing. I think he's going to be very, very hard to beat again. I thought the Japanese Schnellmeister. I thought this is a really good type of horse. I think he was second in the Yasuda Kinnan, which is a decent race, as we know, and also he won the NHK Mile Cup in Tokyo earlier in the year in May. So he's a top-class horse, and Christophe Lemaire rides from 1. I think he might be the danger. But California Spangle, well, he should get out in front, I would have thought, from gate number 2. And Salios, who was 3rd in this race last year, I think can run on as well. But a good outsider, number 7, Laws of Indices. J Mac rides, James McDonald. He's going to go much better on top of the ground, this horse. He was a Group 1 winner in Europe and at Deauville for Ken Condon before going to Annabelle Neesham. And it's good, I think, Andrew, to see a runner from Australia. The old days of Felvalon and all those other horses back in the day, Bart Cummings and even George Hanlon, I remember, had a runner up there in the old days. It's good to see an Aussie stable represented, albeit with an honorary Aussie in Annabelle.
Well, that's right. It was looking a case at one point that it was going to be an Aussie woman training for Britain with Jane Chappell-Hyam, obviously taking Saffron Beach at one point, and a British woman representing Australia, Annabelle Neesham. But she's a young gun. She's probably Australia's most promising young trainer, and looking forward to seeing what she can do on the world stage for the first time. It won't be the last, that's for sure. Wally, it was really interesting hearing from Zach Purton yesterday. He was talking about all the horses he's seen in his time in Hong Kong and ridden as well, but talking from Viva Pitaka, Vengeance of Rain, right through to Ambitious Dragon, Able Friend, Designs on Rome, right through to Beauty Generation, who he obviously rode to most of his big wins. And he said that he's never seen a horse as good as Golden 60. He said Golden 60 is by far and away the best horse he's seen because of the 2 reasons that Jim mentioned, the turn of foot and his will to win. I'm curious, you've seen a lot of Hong Kong racing. What do you think about that assessment, and do you think he wins on Sunday?
Well, my problem with that, and I think, listen, I'm not going to ever knock Golden 60 because he's one of the best that I've seen, but I always quite wonder what the opposition that he's met in the last few seasons. Very, very similar horses. I know when he's won this race a couple of times, the international race, but I always loved Ambitious Dragon. I was a huge fan of Ambitious Dragon, but there's some very, very good gallopers. But Golden 60, let's have a look. Listen, this is the most prolific winner in both prize money and races, as Jim has alluded to. He's won 22 of his 25. He's a legend in his own lifetime. You can guarantee the city who are not at the racecourse will stand still. You'll be able to hear a pin drop when these horses are going into the stalls. You'll get the taxi drivers, market stall holders, restaurant customers. They'll all be tuning in on their mobile, their radio, their TV to listen to the race. That's how much Golden 60 means to the city of Hong Kong. If he gets beat, it'll be a disaster. There'll be a day of mourning, I would imagine, if he does get beat. And he could, but unfortunately, I think he'll win. His odds, he's odds on. I think he'll be far shorter in Hong Kong than he is over the UK. But Jim has obviously been listening to me, because my big danger was Schnell Meister. I was keeping this in my pocket to produce, and then Jim brings it out. I like the look of this. This is a smart Group 1 mile champion. And he ran well last time out. He got an interrupted passage when he was fifth in the Japanese mile, Group 1 mile. He didn't fire in Dubai, but his overall form is very smart, and he'll be coming. If the pace is quick, he'll be coming from the back. Now, Jim, you say about California Spangle. Pyrah, before he ran in that last race, said that if he doesn't beat Golden 60, receiving £5, he's on his first race of the season, and this horse was rock hard fit, California Spangle, he'll never beat him. Well, that's exactly what happened. Pyrah rode the absolute perfect race on the Tony Cruz horse, but still got beat. So it's very, very difficult to fancy him to overcome him again. But I'm thinking that probably Pyrah will use some different tactics. I can't believe he's going to ride the same tactics that he did last time. Agree, Jim?
Well, I think that last time what he was trying to do was to hold up and then kick away, and to sort of to really play on the fact that he'd had the runs under the belt, and this horse was first up after a 7-month layoff. So that's what he was trying to do. And he did steal a length going around the turn. It was a very canny ride. But this other horse, this champion, Golden 60, his turn of foot won the race. You know, he came, and also the will to win that you're talking about, Andrew, that was so evident as well. And those two attributes carried into victory. I can only see him actually being better this time. And as you say, well, quite right. If he couldn't beat him last time getting an allowance, how's he going to beat him this time? So to be honest with you, I think that Golden 60, he will go into the record books as a triple winner.
It's very exciting indeed to think that Hong Kong might have this horse celebrated again by crowds. I think it's only fitting for the horse to receive the ovation he deserves. I must admit, I've marked it exactly the same as both of you. I've got Golden 60 on top of Schnellmeister, so might be the Quinella play on Sunday for the Hong Kong Mile. And we move on to the richest race in Hong Kong. It is the Longines Hong Kong Cup, coming up over 1.25 miles, 2,000 metres, 34 million Hong Kong dollars, 3.4 million quid or thereabouts, coming up at 8:40 a.m. British time, 4:40 p.m. Hong Kong time. This is a race with such a storied history. It's been run now for, 35 years or thereabouts. It's been at the 2,000 metres for about 25 odd years. I know you called some of the early 2,000 metre Hong Kong Cups there, Jim, and some great winners over the years. This is a race where we see horses coming from Japan, Hong Kong, obviously, and we do have an Irish runner as well. It's a very competitive race, probably the most competitive of a lot of them. I'll start with you, Wally. How did you see this Hong Kong Cup shaping up?
Right. Well, as you've alluded to, yeah, it's the jewel in the crown in Hong Kong. I mean, it's worth over, nearly £3.5 million. I mean, that's an unbelievable. But as I've said previously, the Japanese are throwing the kitchen sink at this contest, having won the last 3 editions. Their heavy artilleries, like, it's spearheaded by this Panther Lhasa. Now, this was a YouTube sensation on its last run, because I don't think anybody's ever seen a horse go so far in front in a Group 1 race and still be 15, 20 lengths in front, turning into the home straight, and then just get chinned on the line. I mean, it was a very, very brave effort. One of the horses that he beat in that race that couldn't keep up with him was this very flashy chestnut Jack Daw that's got 4 white feet. If you fancy this horse, it'll be very easy to follow him, I promise you, during the race. So they're to me are the main Japanese challengers. But laying in weight is the Hong Kong reigning middle distance champion, Romantic Warrior. I mean, he's a winner of 8 of his 9 races. He's gone up a staggering, and Nigel Gray's the handicapper, so he's gone up a staggering 75 points since he first started last year, just over a year ago. I mean, that's a hell of a hike up in the handicap. That really is. It was disclosed that he had a setback early in the season. There was 1 or 2 people a little bit worried. Danny Shum's stable, although Danny was okay about it. But then it came back and won the Jockey Club Cup last month. And he won it in such authoritative fashion. It's got James McDonald on it. And I'll tell you, it was running a fast pace, a fast tempo. So if you're thinking he may have a problem with Panther Lhasa and a Jack Daw in the field, don't worry. The fast pace ain't going to worry him. So I just find it's very, very difficult to go against him. Nothing really else catches my eye, except I'm quite interested in a William Buick's mount, Geoglyph, another Japanese raider. He's racing now over his Optimum trip, having won the Japanese 2000 Guineas in April, and he beat that Japanese champion Equinox. That's good form, that is. And Dan on the Kid may be an each way play, but I think I've mentioned the 3 main contenders, Jim. You may have other ideas.
Wally, I think you've certainly mentioned 2 of my 3. Romantic Warrior, he's 8 out of 9, and he looks like he could be the next superstar. And the only time he got beaten, he shouldn't have been beaten. He was just trapped wide in a 9-furlong race. He's a really, really likeable type, and James McDonald riding is just plus for me. His ride last time was perfection. He drew the outside from the same barrier, the same start, the 2,000 metres, and he got him right over into a nice handy position, and was lying about 4th and throughout, and he just did the business in really good style. I think he'll improve again. You would think so. It's in Hong Kong. It is not common to see horses win first up over 2,000 metres. It is in Europe, but it's not in Hong Kong or Australia. So look, this horse I think he's got improvement in him. And I think we'll be raving about him for quite a while to come. Panther Lhasa. Now, you mentioned about a horse going so far in front of races. I'm going to test your viewers, Andrew. I bet there's nobody out there that has heard of a horse called Scotch and Dry, who in the late 60s in Australia, Scotch and Dry used to win his races by going out, and there's a very famous race that he won at Flemington. I think it was the Hotham Handicap, which became the Lexus, and I don't know what it's called now, but it's probably back to the Hotham or something now. But anyway, he went 25 lengths in front. all the other jockeys in the race were hauled in by the stewards, and they were, because Scotch and Dry won, they didn't catch him, and they were all suspended for not chasing. And it was a very, very controversial race. The only other person I've ever heard discuss this, I once mentioned Scotch and Dry on a live broadcast from Hong Kong, and Jenny Chapman was the only person that had heard of Scotch and Dry. So I defy anybody out there to come back to you and say that they remember him. But he was a terrific front runner. This Panther Lasser, whether he can be quite as adventurous, I don't know. But Yutaka Yoshida is going to be out of the gates like Frankel, and he'll be in front by the swimming pool. That's for sure as they round that turn, and it'll be interesting just to see how fast he goes. But I do think that Romantic Warrior will win. Panther Lasser I can see running a place, and Les Papal right down the bottom. This one I think has been laid out. The Magic Man Joe Moreira takes the ride, and also Russian Emperor Blake Shin. Let's hope he's got his passport all cleared. If he has and he's there, Russian Emperor, he just might run into a place as well. But for me, Romantic Warrior will be hailing another champion, I'm sure.
Jim.
Sorry, just butted in there. Yeah, you were right. Russian Emperor. I mean, didn't he finish third in this race last year, didn't he? And then he started to pick up. He started to be in prime condition, and then he was the real best long distance. Well, they call it long distance, mile and a half horse. But he hasn't done it this year, Jim, and he worries me.
The only thing I would say is if you look at the pattern last year, it was very similar, as you say. But I think it's significant that Douglas White, Dougie, has decided to go for the Cup instead of the Vase. And it would have seemed to me to be logical to be going for the Vase. This is a mile and a half winner in Hong Kong. He's definitely, he definitely stays. Why is he going for this? This is a tougher race. So I think he must be getting the right signs, the right vibes.
I just think that maybe he's still not 100% yet.
That's the other thing too that's really interesting to mention, just with Russian Emperor, is that he carried the blinkers every start last season, except for the Champions and Trader Cup. He hasn't carried them in both starts this season. Gets the blinkers on here, so maybe a little bit of Dougie White magic there, Wally.
Yeah, as I say, he's a big price. So if you fancy him, you want to believe what Jim says. And the other thing is, I wasn't around when Jim was talking about that horse going 25 lengths clear. I know you weren't even born.
Well, you were in another country.
Well, you know what? I must say, I wasn't even born, but I have seen Melbourne Cup replays, and I remember him going 15 lengths clear in I think it was the 1972 Melbourne Cup. It was Piping Lane's Melbourne Cup, and the thing that I remember about it is that Bert Bryant, who's the race caller of the replay that I saw, he mentioned it so casually. He's like, Scotch and Dry has gone clear by 15 lengths, and it was just very nonchalant. So I have heard of Scotch and Dry. I wasn't around to see him, but I have heard of him. So I can imagine that, look, if we can see that from Panther Lasser on Sunday, it would just be a great spectacle. And you can imagine the Hong Kong crowd, the Sha Tin crowd, just going electric if Panther Lasser does that, Jim.
Well, he's sure to, isn't he? He's sure to be leading, I would imagine, turning into the home stretch. And he'll be probably 6-8 lengths clear. And then that's when the petrol starts to flicker on everything. That's why I think it's a great race. But I agree with you, Jim. I think this is the next big thing, Romantic Warrior. So fingers crossed. Unfortunately, we've all tipped the same horses. Jim and I, the experts, the so-called experts, have tipped all the same horses. What a load of rubbish, Jim.
Well, I must admit, I'm with Panther Lasser here, so hopefully I'm the point of difference, Wally. But unfortunately, I'm not quite in the same league as you two as experts. So, as you say, you've mentioned the same horses across both. But do you know what? That could be the path to victory. As the banners all around Hong Kong say, it's all about the path to victory this year. The path to victory could be through those four horses. That's the Hong Kong Cup. Romantic Warrior for both Wally and Jim in the richest race in Hong Kong in 2022. So those are the 4 features: the Hong Kong Vase, the Hong Kong Sprint, the Hong Kong Mile, and the Hong Kong Cup. It's going to be a great race day on Sunday at Sha Tin from wherever you're watching, whether you're in Hong Kong or watching from abroad. Jim McGrath, I come to you. Of the 4 races across the card, which of the 4 are you most confident about? And if you could just recap your selections as well, that'd be fantastic.
Well, I'd say probably the one I'm most confident about is Golden 60. I do think that he's a champion, and I think he'll be extremely hard to beat. But going through them, race 4, I go for 10 Stone Age to beat number 5 Botanic. In race 5, the Hong Kong Sprint, I go for 4 Lucky Sweynesse to beat 1 Wellington. Race 7, the Hong Kong Mile, I go for, in this race, I go for number 1 Golden 60 to beat 4 Schnellmeister. And in race 8, the Hong Kong Cup, I go for 2 Romantic Warrior to beat 1 Panther Lasser.
And Wally, Pyrah, you said your selections are very similar. If you could walk us through those, though, it'd be great to hear your perspective.
Yeah, it just worries me that Jim has gone for his best bet of the day there, something that'll probably start a 3-1 on. I can't believe he's going.
Well, Wally, I think the way that Andrew phrased it was, what is the one of the 4 that you're the most confident
that you're
about?
most confident about. I didn't ask best bet. I said most confident.
He wasn't asking me my best bet, and of course, if you want to lay the odds on, most certainly do. But I've never laid odds on in my life.
Right. Well, my horses. Let's have a look down there. In the Hong Kong Vase, I'm going to go for the bottom horse, Stone Age. And my danger will be Win Marilyn. That's the 2 I like in that race. The 650, the Hong Kong Sprint. It's a match race. I've gone for Lucky Sweynesse over Wellington. The Hong Kong Mile, I've gone for Jim's best bet here, Golden 60. But I do like this as the each way bet, Schnellmeister. I just think I'd be disappointed if he don't get in the frame. And
it's a great name, isn't it?
What, Schnellmeister?
Yeah.
Have I pronounced it right or not?
Oh, it's a great name. I think it's a lovely name.
Oh, I thought you were going to have a go about my pronunciation, Jim. And in the Hong Kong Cup, this is, I think, Romantic Warrior is bomb-proof. So I look forward to being this horse as my, not best bet, but the horse I think that will win. And my danger to it will be probably Panther Lasser.
So those numbers again from both Jim and Wally. They're both with Stone Age in the Vase, both with the 4 Lucky Sweynesse in the Sprint, both with Golden 60 in the Mile, both with Romantic Warrior in the Cup. So that might be the way to play it. Personally, I'm going to be going with Botanic in the Vase. I'm going to be going with Gendarme in the Sprint. Golden 60, I think you have to be most confident about in the Mile. And I'm hoping Panther Lasser, we can see him skip away in the Cup. But it is one of those race meetings. It's full of opinions. And look, they might have just provided you the path to victory. So make sure you take very good note of what 2 of the world's leading Hong Kong racing experts have to say in Wally Pyrah and Jim McGrath. Gentlemen, it's been great to have a chat to you this evening. Looking forward to what is going to be a big race meeting on Sunday. It's a shame that you're not here in Hong Kong, but hopefully that will be the case in 2023. Best of luck to you both on Sunday. And thank you again for joining us on this Hong Kong Racing Preview Show. Thank you again for your company, and looking forward to, again, a big race meeting on Sunday. Make sure that if you are having a bet, remember to gamble responsibly.